A Step into the Past. Don't forget to subscribe, brother. Chapter 10. Spending the Night Together. Tao Feng spoke to Xiang Xiaolong quietly through the carriage window. I know that Xiaolong has long guessed that it's Lady Ye who wants to see you. Ever since her husband Zhao Kui died in the Battle of Chongping, that wanton has been hunting handsome men every day to become her intimate guests. If she's satisfied after trying them out, she'll keep them as her lover, and Lian Jin is one of them. Xiang Xiaolong asked quietly, "Does her brother Emperor Xiaoqing know about this?" Tao Feng replied, "The whole city is full of spies. How could His Majesty not know? It's just that in the past His Majesty was tricked by Fan Zhu from the state of Qin and replaced Lian Pa asterisk with Xiao Kui, refusing to listen to the advice of the then Prime Minister Lin Xiangru. He sent Zhao Kui, who can only talk but doesn't know how to strategize a war, to fight the Qin soldiers at Chongping and cause the 400,000 brave soldiers to be almost totally annihilated. Zhao Kui died in the battlefield, and only about 240 survivors returned. His Majesty felt guilt towards his sister, so he condones her actions. Therefore, Lady Ye holds a certain amount of influence over His Majesty, so don't you offend her." He signaled the footmen to start the journey. *Lianpa, http://en, wikipedia.org/wiki/lian_pa. Xiang Xiaolong felt that the entire situation was hilarious. When he reached Wuhan initially, he had thought of becoming a gigolo to earn money for traveling expenses. Who would have expected that now he would have no choice but to really become a gigolo, and his customer is that Lady Ye. He has suffered enough setbacks and anguish, and has no mood to enjoy the changing scenery outside the window because his heart is in turmoil. His thinking in the past was quite naive, thinking that with his military training he will be able to excel in this era. But he did not expect such complications, and like the same across all eras, brute strength is not enough to accomplish anything. If he wants to control his own fate, he'll have to use extreme measures and step on everyone else so that he will not have to be led around by the nose. The most important thing right now is to defeat Lian Jin. But in the earlier fight with him, this person's swordplay is truly at his peak. Even if he were to include wrestling in the duel, he might still not be able to win. Besides, what Lian Jin said was correct. He has only learnt the Mozi swordplay for a few months, and is not that experienced yet, so how can he win him? When they dueled earlier, Lian Jin was exceptionally calm and composed, just like what Yuan Zong said a true swordsman should achieve. But he on the other hand was rash and impulsive. If he can't change this, he will certainly lose. So, what should he do? Suddenly, he had an idea, and thought of that extreme beauty Wu Tingfang. If he can win her heart, what kind of a blow will it be for Lian Jin, who thinks the world of himself? When it comes to wooing ladies, it has always been his forte, so there's no way that hateful babe Wu Tingfang will be able to reject him. The problem is that in ancient times there's no such thing as phoning to arrange a date, so how can he get to her himself? By now the carriage has gone past a huge mansion, with guards standing at the door. He saw people wearing clothes that doesn't seem to be usual outfit for the Zhaos walking in and out, so he asked the footman who was driving the carriage. The footman replied, "That's the house in Handan which belongs to people from other states." Xiang Xiaolong was secretly overjoyed and thought that maybe the Qin Emperor Yingzheng is staying in there, and he can't help but feel uplifted. The horse carriage turned right into another main road made from cobblestones and proceeded towards a huge mansion. Xiang Xiaolong collected his composure and told himself, "Xiang Xiaolong, this is the time for you to change. You cannot be so trusting towards others anymore or let feelings rule your head." "Fine. Then let me try something and conquer this Lady Ye first to give Lian Jin his first heavy setback." After changing into a set of fitting warrior's clothes with a cloak, Matched with a long sword at his waist and his hair combed neatly into a crown, Xiang Xiaolong followed two lovely maids and stepped into Lady Ya's grand mansion. The pretty maid invited him to sit on the rug and gave him scented tea before leaving him sitting alone in the spacious hall. Xiang Xiaolong was bored and started observed his surroundings. The hall was exquisitely decorated, with a silk painting on palace people on the wall, the colors vibrant. There was a large rug in the middle of the hall woven with pictures of clouds, the color clean and simple, very pleasing to the eyes. The few cupboards against the wall were full of playthings. If he can just take any one of them back to the 21st century and put it up for auction, he'll be rich for the rest of his life. Right at this time, he had a feeling of being watched. Xiang Xiaolong glanced nonchalantly at a large folding screen on his left which was made up of 8 paintings and seemed to see from the gap in between the reflection from an eye. He was secretly laughing and knew that this must be Lady Ya who has come to inspect the goods. If he appears to be uneasy or do anything embarrassing while waiting impatiently, this wanton Lady Ya, who loves toying with men, will surely despise him. Once he thought about this, he became mischievous and stood up, sweeping his cape aside to reveal his manly body that can intoxicate any female. He stretched and walked to a large window and looked out so that Lady Ya can just see his chiseled left profile. He stood straight like a mountain, one hand behind him, the other hand resting on his sword, a look of deep thought in his expression, very immersed in his acting. He did not bring his wooden sword, because that's his secret weapon, and he did not wish to reveal it to anyone before his duel with Lian Jin. The garden outside the window looked especially pretty and calming under the rays of the setting sun. A gentle breeze blew, uplifting his spirits. For a moment he forgot that Lady Ya is peeping at him and remembered his own era. In that era, the rule of strong eating the weak has not changed, but there are still laws and regulations between different countries. But in this warring states period, the ruler's order is law, the words of the state is maxim, so it seems that Emperor Qin did not do anything appalling at all. If he did not unify China, they will be eaten by other countries sooner or later. It is Emperor Qin who built the Great Wall that helped China maintain its unity for a long time. Footsteps were heard. The pretty maid came to invite him in to see Lady Ya and to remove his sword. Xiang Xiaolong knows that he has passed the first round, so he removed his sword and followed the pretty maid in. He had just stepped into the door and immediately he saw a pretty lady lying down on a long couch at the other end, looking totally relaxed with a hand supporting her chin. A pair of alluring yet dreamy-looking eyes was sizing him up coldly, her fair legs peeping out from her skirt, creating a picturesque scene of a beauty lazing that is enough to make any man fall head over heels. The small hall was not lighted. The setting sun shone in from 2 large windows with floral carving from the west. The pretty maid went out, leaving Xiang Xiaolong standing in front of the door. He really has no idea what the material that Lady Ya, who was still lying in the chaise, was made of. Maybe it's made with silk mixed with something else, as it was radiating. Her earrings were made from pretty jade, a golden hairpin gleaming in her hair, pearls decorating her clothes, her skirt light and sheer, her body emanating a heavy fragrance. The shape of her face is extremely pretty, her brows well drawn, her smooth skin fair with a tinge of red, extremely alluring. The most intoxicating part is her idle yet alluring pose, her mature and enchanting ways. Compared to Wu Tingfang, she is another kind of beauty who certainly did not fare any worse. She cannot be any older than 25, right in the prime of a woman's life. Xiang Xiaolong's interest is already piqued, but in order to conquer this beauty, he deliberately pretended to be unaffected and proud and walked boldly forward, stopping 5 paces in front of her, bowed and said, "Xiang Xiaolong pays his respects to Lady Ya." After he finished speaking, he stared boldly at her alluring body but did not reveal any lecherous look at all, and looked as if he's just admiring a plaything on one of the shelves at the outer hall. Lydia laughed coquettishly, emitting a clear, crisp voice that sounds even nicer than bells, and said gently, "Xiang Xiaolong, take a seat." Xiang Xiaolong smiled slightly and sat down suavely. He looked deeply into her pretty eyes, but did not speak. Madame Ye said unhappily, "I've never seen someone who look at me with such disrespect and audacity. Don't you know my status?" Xiang Xiaolong smiled lazily and replied with indescribable confidence, "How would I not know lady's status? But it still does not change the fact that I am a man and you are a woman. I'm admiring lady the way a man will look at a woman, and this shows that lady's allure is enough to make me forget about your higher status." Lydia was stunned and sat up straight. Xiang Xiaolong's gaze dropped to her perk bosom. This time, he is not pretending. Lydia exclaimed angrily, "How rude. What are you looking at?" Xiang Xiaolong knows that it's time to stop, so he said with a serious and respectful expression, "Since lady does not like me revealing my true feelings, then feel free to punish me." Lydia was a little helpless as she replied, "Forget it. Do you know why I summoned you?" Xiang Xiaolong very much wanted to say of course he's here to sleep with her, but of course he dared not reveal this, so he said calmly, "Of course I do. Lady wants to see if Xiang Xiaolong is the thing that lady has been looking for all this time." Lydia's pretty eyes lighted up, and after exchanging a long look with him, said, "Humph," and laughed, "I've never seen a man more conceited than you." Xiang Xiaolong stood up with a smile and bowed, "Since you are so displeased with me, then I shall take my leave," and turned around to leave. Lydia did not expect him to do this and exclaimed angrily, "Stop there, or don't you want your life anymore?" Xiang Xiaolong turned around and said with a charming smile, "Lady, please don't be upset. Actually, how can I bear to leave? I just wanted to see if lady will ask me to stay and spend the night." Lydia was in a flurry after being attacked by his brilliant eyes, overpowering charisma and strong words, making her look even more alluring. The last ray of the sun finally disappeared from the west under the plains outside the city of Handan. The small hall became dark, throwing this couple into a mysterious environment. Xiang Xiaolong walked to a small table at Lydia's side and knelt on the rug, reached out his hand, took the Kindle from the table, and lighted the exquisite lamp made from jade. Under the light, Lydia's eyes became two round and bright rare black precious stones. Xiang Xiaolong secretly thought to himself, this is the first time since he arrived that he tasted such a romantic ancient atmosphere. He must have the beautiful body beneath that fine silk tonight no matter what, and totally conquer both her body and her mind. This is the dream of every man who has ever seen her, and he is no exception. He moved towards her as he knelt, grabbed her shoulders and said gently, "Do you want me to treat you as a lady or a woman? Would lady please tell me?" Lydia realized that there's no way she can play Kai any further, so her body softened and she fell into his arms and said with a soft sigh, "Why must Xiang Xiaolong force me thus?" Xiang Xiaolong lifted up her delicate chin, tilting her head up and kissed her gently a dozen times on her lips before giving her a hard kiss. He used all his kissing skills learnt from porn movies and comics, as well as his most tried and tested effective skills to flirt with this beauty. He took the opportunity to move his hand down, sweeping past her bosom and soft waist, his palm pressing down on her taut and fiery tummy. Lydia's writhed her body, her whole body lightly trembling, her breathing getting more and more rapid, her tongue's reaction getting more and more intense. Obviously, she is starting to get aroused. Xiang Xiaolong left her fragrant shoulder, looking at her heavy-lidded eyes lovingly and asked emotionally, "Is lady happy?" Lydia revealed a look of loss and said quietly, "Am I happy? No. I never dared to think of this question." Xiang Xiaolong secretly sighed. Beautiful women always have hard lives, and the responsibility of course falls on the men. But beauty is as short-lived as a dream, so there's not a lot of beauties who can be happy when their beauty is slowly fading. Ancient beauties are thus short-lived, never allowing others to see them growing old. Therefore, Lady Yi wants to hunt handsome men for pleasure, while she's still in her prime. But modern research papers have pointed out that such mindless sex will not make one happy. So Xiang Xiaolong came straight to the point and asked her this question. Lady Yi immediately revealed her true feelings unconsciously because he has touched a sore spot. Xiang Xiaolong wanted to remove her belt. Lady Yi smiled coquettishly and, grabbing his hands, suddenly pulled him up and said happily like a little girl, "But I know I'll be very happy tonight. Here, come to my room. I've prepared food and wine, and we can chat and drink at the same time, all right?" Lady Yi placed the wine cup at Xiang Xiaolong's lips, a flirty smile on her pretty face, and said, "This is the first cup of wine. Xiaolong, shall we each drink half of it?" Xiang Xiaolong was secretly laughing that no matter how noble her birth is or how high her status is, she is still a woman who needs the love and care of a man. So, with this point, he will be able to make himself irresistible to her. The only way to conquer her is to treat her like an ordinary woman, and the most important thing is to make her feel that it's better to be a woman than a lady. He's very confident that he can accomplish this. The only question is how important Lianjin is to her, because he is also a very attractive man. Lady Yi can be considered to be another battlefield for him and Lianjin. He drank half a cup of wine from Lady Yi's hands and suddenly kissed her on the mouth, slowly passing the fine wine into her tiny mouth. Lady Yi gurgled, but she has no strength to push him away, so she can only drink his half cup of wine obediently. Her pretty face blushed, and even her enchanting dimples were reddened. Xiang Xiaolong left her tiny mouth, gently taking over the cup from her fingers, and before she had the chance to protest, poured it into her tiny mouth that was panting quickly. He said gently, "This half cup is mine, so don't you drink it into your pretty belly." Lady Yi rolled her eyes at him coquettishly, her fragrant lips already locked with his, the wine in her mouth sucked dry by him. The two of them separated. Either Lady Yi is a bad drinker, or she is too heated by desire, but she moaned and collapsed into his arms. Xiang Xiaolong has no wish to conquer this noble beauty so soon, so he tilted her face up and scattered hot kisses on her hair, face, ears, and neck. Lady Yi finally removed all her barriers and guards, and was panting and moaning, unable to control herself. Xiang Xiaolong's hand slipped into her clothes, lovingly kneading the smooth and supple thighs and tummy, teasing her tender and soft skin inch by inch, not missing a single spot, and said gently, "Do you have the feeling of being toyed by a man now?" Lady Yi asked, "Are you really not leaving me with any dignity at all?" And she continued moaning. Xiang Xiaolong's hands stopped, but he did not take them out of her clothes. He tilted his head and looked at this beauty with a head of messy hair, disheveled clothes, with a pair of fair legs and half her bosom exposed to the air. The corners of his mouth curved into a slight smile, and he asked, "Can I take a close look at Lady Yi's body?" Lady Yi replied hoarsely, "You have touched it so many times now, and yet you're still asking me?" Xiang Xiaolong looked heavenward and laughed loud and long. The heroic air he exudes melted Lady Yi's heart immediately, and she lowered her head and said submissively, "Look then. You can look all you want." Xiang Xiaolong knows that he's getting closer to success, or else she would not behave with such abandon and obedience. His hands immediately started, at times gentle, at times wild, and a little brutish as well, beginning the actual attack on her. The night passed like that. She is no longer a lady of noble birth, but a shameless woman in heated desire enjoying her lover's ministrations. Every second is filled with fiery desire. The joy between a man and a woman drove into Lady Yi wave by wave, making her delirious. She cried out the name of this lovely yet hateful man madly, touching and hugging this perfect male body, feeling his explosive strength and his seemingly endless intense attacks, reaching the fiery peak where soul meets desire time and again. In the past, when she was with other men, she'd always chase them away immediately after the act and sleep alone. Even Lien Jin was no exception. But tonight, she has no wish to leave this man's embrace even for a moment. But only for tonight. Everything will be different tomorrow. No man will be able to make her surrender. She only wants to capture men, but does not wish to be captured, because that would be too torturous. She fell into a deep sleep in her daze, and when she woke up, it's already late in the morning. Xiang Xiaolong is already gone, only leaving behind on the blanket a yellow chrysanthemum freshly plucked from the garden. Lady A clutched tightly at the stem. A sweet and satisfied, alluring smile appeared on her pretty face.